Hello, third graders. Welcome back to a little lunchtime reading, just like the old days at TCS. Hey, I thought it would be fun to catch up a little bit on our reading from King Arthur. And this last story we left off is Gawain and the Green Knight. So just a recap, Mrs. Martin read the first half of this chapter. And if you remember, King Arthur and his court are having a merry party during the time between Christmas and New Year's. And while they're enjoying the banquet in the great hall, a man bursts in and disrupts them. He is a big burly fellow who is handsome in appearance, but one thing is mysterious about him, and he is all green. From his head, his hair, to his feet, remember, he's all green, including his horse, all green. Thus the name, the Green Knight. Now he comes in, he disrupts their time together, and he makes a challenge, and he says, with his axe in his hand, if anyone here is as brave as story goes, as legend goes, then I challenge one of your knights to take this axe and to hit me on the head with it, chop off my head. One big swing. And once you've done that, then the challenge is, in 1 year and 1 day, I will come find you, or you are to meet me, you are to find me, and I get to do the same thing to you. And of course, no one wanted to take the challenge, so King Arthur goes up and he says, well, I must take this challenge because we are brave here. And then Sir Gawain, a knight, steps forward and he says, no, we can't allow the king to be killed. And so Sir Gawain takes the challenge. And he swings a blow out to the giant Green Knight and cuts off his head. And his head goes rolling. Do you remember that part? And everyone is cheering because they don't have to worry about this Green Knight anymore. Well, the Green Knight still got up, went over, grabbed his head by the hair, and rode off on his horse with the challenge, okay, you gave me a blow, now in 1 year and 1 day you are to come find me at a certain chapel in the forest and let me give you a blow. And that is so that Sir Gawain would not have, he would not be laughed at for the rest of his life because he didn't take this challenge. So that's where we left off. So I'm going to start reading to see what happens to Sir Gawain when his time comes. I'm taking a sip of my coffee before I start. All right. This story, just to give you a little heads up, it's a great story on not allowing fear or greed to make our decisions for us. So listen closely and see how these two things sway Sir Gawain on his journey. All right, okay. And so I'm going to back up a page. And if you remember, Sir Gawain went on his hunt a year later on his quest, and he ended up at a beautiful castle along the way, and the host and his wife welcomed him into the castle. All right. And the host of that castle also presented a challenge to Sir Gawain, and so I am backing up to that place where he makes that challenge. That night at dinner with his host and his host's beautiful wife, Gawain ate well, drank deeply, and felt life seeping back into his bones. So tell me a little about your life, his host said, when Gawain had eaten his fill. "I come from Camelot. My name is Sir Gawain," he replied. The Lord burst out laughing. "Gawain, your bravery is famous throughout the land. You are more than welcome in this house. My only request is that you do not ask my name." So Gawain spent 3 days feasting and making merry with the Lord and his wife. On the 3rd day, he made ready to set out. "Gawain, why are you leaving us so soon?" his host asked. "I have a quest," Gawain replied. "I must find the Knight of the Green Chapel by New Year's Eve. In 3 short days, I have to face my destiny, and I would rather die than shirk my duty." The Lord laughed. "Relax, the Green Chapel is not more than 2 miles away. Stay with us, and on New Year's Day, I will send a guide to show you the way. Save your farewells for then." "In that case," said Gawain, "let me serve you in any way I can while I stay with you." "Do you mean that?" his host asked. Gawain nodded. "Well, in that case, I have a game for you," said his host with a grin. "Tomorrow, I will be out hunting all day. My wife will keep you company while I'm gone. But let's make a pact. Whatever I win in the woods will belong to you, and whatever you win while I'm away will be mine." "Why not?" said Gawain. "Let's drink to it." So the next day, the Lord rose before dawn and set off to hunt. The air was soon thick with arrows as the hounds and horses flew through the forest, racing after a herd of deer. Meanwhile, Gawain dozed in bed. Half asleep, he heard a sound and looked through a gap in his bed curtains to see the lady of the house creeping into his room. Gawain shut his eyes. He pretended to be asleep as he heard her pull back the curtains and sit down softly on the edge of the bed. He lay there for some time, wondering what had brought on this strange visit and hoping that she would leave. When she didn't, he stretched and opened his eyes. "Good morning, Sir Gawain," the lady said. "You slept so well that anyone might have wandered in here. And now," she laughed, "you are trapped." "Good morning," said Sir Gawain, sitting up in bed. "I will do whatever you ask of me, but first let me dress. Then we can talk more easily." "Nonsense," the lady replied. "I'd much prefer to stay just as we are. My husband is out. The servants are snoring, my maids are away, and the door to this room is barred with a bolt. I have an honored guest, a brave knight, and I will take my time to talk to him." "You flatter me," Sir Gawain replied, uncomfortably. "I'm sure I don't deserve such rich praise. Good night. Nothing would give me greater pleasure than talking to you. I'd rather be here with you than have all the gold in the world." "You are too kind," said Sir Gawain. They talked for hours of many things, and finally the lady got up to leave. At the door, she turned back to him. "You are noble, handsome, and polite, but you are not famous, Sir Gawain." "Why not?" Gawain asked. Sir Gawain would never be so rude as to let a lady leave without a kiss on the cheek. "Very well," said Sir Gawain. "If a kiss on the cheek is all you ask for, I shall keep my promise." He kissed her on the cheek, and she returned a kiss to him on his cheek and left without another word. That night, the host returned from the hunt, and he showed Gawain his haul, a huge pile of venison. "Well, what do you think?" he asked. "It's a fine result," Gawain replied. "It's all yours, according to our bargain," said his host. "And whatever I've won between these walls belongs to you," said Gawain. So he gave his host a kiss on the cheek, just as the lady had given him. "Now, Gawain, your gift would mean much more to me if you told me where you had won it," said the host, a smile playing on his lips. "That was not the agreement, so I shall not answer," Gawain replied. That night they shared a feast by the fire and agreed to play again the next day. Early the next morning, the Lord and his men leaped from their beds to join the hunt. Their hounds raced through thickets and forests until they sniffed the scent of a wild boar. It burst out of a thicket, hurtling past the men and trampling the hounds. The Lord tore after the beast, chasing him until dusk, when finally, in a river, man and beast faced each other. As they clashed, the Lord slashed the boar's neck and burst his heart. Gawain was still snoring when the hunters set out, but the lady had not forgotten him. She crept into his room again and sat down on his bed. If this is Gawain who greets me, then I am disappointed that he has neglected the first rule of honorable behavior, she said. Which rule? Asked Gawain sleepily. You should have kissed me on the cheek, of course, said the lady, and so Sir Gawain gave her a kiss on the cheek, which she returned to him. Again they talked for hours. How can it be that you, an honorable knight, have not talked to me of love? The lady asked. All the tales of famous knights tell how knights live for love and lay down their lives for love, and yet of love you have not spoken to me a single word. In faith, I know little of love, Sir Gawain replied, blushing. He changed the subject and they talked some more. All the while she gave him smiles and loving looks, which Gawain politely ignored. In the end, she asked for a kiss on the cheek. He kissed her once more on her cheek and she left. That night, Gawain's host gave him the enormous boar, and Gawain gave him the 2 kisses on the cheek he had won that morning. After dinner, they sang song after song, and the lady and Gawain sat together all the while. And so loving was the lady to Gawain, sending him smiles and inviting looks, that he felt half mad with desire. And the Lord and Gawain agreed to play the game a 3rd time the next day. At dawn, the hunting horns rang through the woods, and the huntsmen rode through the forest after a fox. They chased him for miles, while the wily fox kept running ahead, with the baying hounds hard on his heels. Gawain lay in bed that morning, dreaming of the Green Knight. In his dreams, he heard the knight sharpening his axe and saw the steel blade crashing down towards him. He woke with a start to find the lady sitting on the end of his bed, frowning at him. How can you sleep on this beautiful morning? She asked. Wake up, Gawain, let us talk. So they talked for some time, and then the lady grew serious and quiet. Gawain, she said, will you not give me some gift that I might keep as a memory of you? My lady, Gawain said, you deserve the highest prize that I could offer, but all I have is a glove. It would be far too lowly a gift for you. Well then, do not give me a gift. Still, here is my gift for you, she said, and offered him a ruby ring from her finger. I cannot take this, Gawain said, since I have no gift to give you in return. Then take this belt, she urged him, unbuckling a beautiful green belt from around her waist. By God's grace, I cannot take this either. I must refuse, no matter how flattered I am, he said. I give you thanks 1,000 times over. If you knew its powers, you would not refuse it, the lady said. Whoever wears this belt will be safe from his enemies. He could face all the cunning and strength of 1,000 giants and never be slain. Gawain looked at the belt in her hands. With luck, it could save his life. As she pressed him to take it, he gave in. The lady begged him not to mention a word of this to her husband, and he agreed, thanking her with all his heart. For his thanks, he repaid her with 3 kisses on the cheek this time. When the lady had left, Gawain dressed and hid the belt beneath his clothes. That night the Lord came into the hall holding a fox, and Gawain gave him the 3 kisses on the cheek. I'm sorry that all I have for you is this puny fox, said the host. It's not much compared to your 3 kisses. Enough, said Gawain. We have completed our pact. But he said nothing of the magical belt that he had won. That night the feast was merrier than ever before, and it was with a heavy heart that Gawain set out the next morning. Okay, I'm going to stop there. And I will do one more of these readings tomorrow, or actually probably for the next week I will read it to you. So stay tuned for the ending of that story, and be thinking about maybe what Gawain did, as he was not honest with his host at the end. He did not show him the green belt that the woman had given him. And see where that leads him in the next part of his quest to find the Green Knight. All right. Thanks for listening, and tune in for the next chapter next week. All right. Have a great day.